What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Demon Racers podcast, Ancient Angels, and here with your host, JT, as well.
Is it going?
We're a little exhausted because we were in Vegas doing podcasts, but it was awesome, right? It turned out great.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a great time going out there, connecting with the podcast community. I think you and I both did Sean Kelly and Jake Shields.
Yep, and it was
weekend,
like
this
it
week.
was surprise swap for both of us. Like,
Yeah, it was like literally
great.
we were just playing tag,
Yeah.
like tag team. Like I did Sean Kelly's show, tag, you're it.
Yeah.
Brian's doing Jake Shields, and then we flip flopped and. Yeah, so it'll be fun to see when those podcasts come out. I'm not exactly sure those guys they record a lot of shows, so we don't really know when they're coming out yet.
Yeah, they do quite a bit, and sometimes they're delayed. I think they're gonna push them out soon. I think. I know that I was talking about the Israel stuff.
Iran.
It might be more time sensitive, but we'll see. Whenever it happens.
You know, we're like in the fog of war because I don't really know what to believe about anything that's happening over there right now.
I know, right? It just seems like all of it's like misleading information or something.
Oh, 100%. Well, it's funny that my early read on it was that Trump obviously trying to do what Bibi Netanyahu says. He ended up doing this quote unquote preemptive strike because because Israel was going to attack, and if Israel attacked, they would attack us. But I don't know. This is, like I said, this is just like a theory. Is that Trump thought that he could just come in and drop some bombs and take out Khomeini and then declare victory, and it'd be over real quick, and like all these dominoes would fall, and then the regime would change and all that stuff. Well, obviously that's not what's happening. And the fact that they're like running out of bombs seems like they weren't really thinking very far ahead.
No, we're getting our butts kicked, by the way, guys. Like, the United States is getting their butts kicked. We are running out of supplies, and Iran has got 40 years stockpiled. They're like, nah.
Well, I don't know that they're getting their butts kicked, but it's more like that they're not. We're not ready to fight a long war.
No.
And
we're not supplied.
I don't know. It seems kind of like again, like a replay of Iraq, where it was like once they started to get in there, they realized, oh, this is not going to be as easy as we thought. Well, it's like, did you not think this out whatsoever? Like, did you not plan for the scenario of like, okay, so what if they don't just surrender?
Yeah.
What if they keep fighting? Like, that should have been kind of an obvious thing to ask. And now this whole deal with like the Strait of Hormuz, and they can't, like, Iran's talking about shutting this thing down for 3 months, which could lead to oil going to like $200 a barrel. It's like only like 100 right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what that would mean for gas prices in America, but
well, it's all fabricated. And there was one guy who made a video talking about gas prices, which, by the way, we're not going to keep talking about this, guys. We are going to talk today about polygamy and Muslims. It's going to be an interesting topic today for everybody. But this is kind of interesting leading into it. So, but one thing I will tell you, though, is we know that it's fabricated with the oil prices because we just got Venezuela's entire oil resources. So all of the oil nonsense that they're telling us in the news is just a bunch of jargon. And we know this because motor oil has not gone up in price. It's the same process. Why would the motor oil in the stores not have shot up extremely expensive, yet the gas prices is shooting up all the time? And it's like there is a subtle delay, and it's not like motor oil is being used all the time, but it would definitely be shooting up at Valero when you went to go get your, or whatever, those Jiffy Lube. Like when you went to get your oil change, that price would be skyrocketing as well because it's the same oil processing.
Well, they have something different with the refineries, but at the same time, like if
it's
a barrel of oil went up, then all the oil products would go up a lot.
Yeah,
right away.
No, I mean, would go up.
That's a good call about Venezuela, because that's what they were telling us, is they were going to take the oil.
Yeah, dude, it's and yet now they're like, oh, what a wonderful time. And you know what the thing is? When I was driving in Vegas, it was like the gas prices were not insane, but as soon as you get to California, It was like insane. Like, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna fill
Well,
up
I think it was
right at
expensive.
the border."
I think you're just used to really, really expensive gas because of taxes in California. But I
Bro,
know
it's
I want to
nuts.
say it was $5 a
Mhm.
gallon in Vegas, which is a
It
lot for them,
mm,
but it's not a
it's
lot for where you live.
no, it's like 7 here.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy. But what about the Bibi Netanyahu stuff? Do you think he's still alive, or do you think he's passed away?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it, honestly. I think that the 5 finger thing might be a little bit of just a glitch in the
Six
camera, or the
fingers.
6 finger thing might be a little bit of a camera glitch. It did look a little weird, but I think I don't know. I don't know. But I think he might possibly not be, because I mean, think about it. Every time somebody's made an accusation about BB, he's come out and made a video and been like, "I did not shoot Charlie Kirk," or what, you know what I mean? And then
Did
all
you
of a
see
sudden
the video that dropped today where
mm,
he was drinking coffee? He was like at some coffee shop.
mm-mm, I didn't see that one yet. Mm,
Oh yeah, so he was showing his hands, only 5 fingers here, right? Showing his 5 digits, and he was drinking this coffee, and it was really weird looking because it looks like he takes a sip of the coffee and no coffee comes out of the cup. And he's also
Interesting.
like kind of tilting the cup around. I mean, like
Mm.
this coffee looks like it's filled to the absolute brim, and he's moving it around, and it's like this thing would look like it would be spilling if it was. Maybe I should pull
That's
that up. You
fascinating.
should see
Yeah,
that, Brian, because I'd
you
like to
gotta
see
show
your
it to me. Maybe if you have it, show it
yeah,
to me or
I'll
something.
pull it up.
Because this is kind of funny. Even though, okay, so today though, guys, we're gonna talk about Muslims, and we're gonna talk about the terrible, terrible Muslims and how evil, bad, bad, bad they are, and their polyamorous ways or their polygamist ways, and it's actually bad. And I'm gonna share some stuff with you guys today that's gonna be it's gonna shock you. It's probably gonna be shocking. And honestly, the Muslims are probably gonna not like this video. So to any of my Muslim friends, sorry guys. That's the truth of it, the reality of the situation. And you're in a sex cult. The Muslim religion is technically a sex cult, and by default, like, and I could just, I mean, it's very obvious. It's a sex cult. You die and you get a bunch of virgins, and then you have little
Yeah.
boys serving you when you die and go to heaven, the Muslim heaven, where little boys walk around and serving you. Like, I asked one of my Muslim friends, I was like, bro, you literally have little boys and a bunch of virgins and little boys serving you wine and food. I'm like, "Why do you want little boys serving you wine and food?" And he was like, "Would you want some old man serving you wine?" And I'm like, "I wouldn't give a crap who serves me food, bro.
Mm.
I would not think I want a little boy serving me food. What kind of planet are you from, bro?" I was like, "Dude, come on, man. Like, what? Like, what?" I was like, "How is that? Like, would you want an old person serving you food?" I'm like, "What is that? What in the world is this worldly thinking? That is such a ridiculous, like, I don't even know. Anyways, disturbing,
Okay.
disturbing.
Okay.
Show me the
I got
BB
the
thing.
video if you want to see it.
Yeah, yeah, BB it up.
חושב שלא אומרים ברשת שאתה בכלל מת?
אני מת על קפה, אתה יודע מה? אני מת על העם שלי. איך הם מתנהגים, פנטסטי. אתה רוצה לספור את מספר אצבעות?
אתה יכול להראות לנו?
פה. פה. ראית?
יפה מאוד.
לחיים.
חושב של המסר לאנשים שיוצאים ומתאווררים?
לצאת להתאוורר, אבל ליד מרחב מוגן. והעמידה שלכם היא מדהימה, נותנת כוח לי, לממשלה, לצה"ל, למוסד. אנחנו עושים דברים שאני לא יכול לשתף ברגע זה, אבל עושים דברים מכים באיראן חזק מאוד, גם ביום הזה, גם בלבנון, ממשיכים. אתם אומרים לי להמשיך? אני אומר לכולכם, גם אתם תמשיכו. תמשיכו להישמע להוראות פיקוד העורף, כל הזמן, להישמע להוראות פיקוד העורף, וגם לראשי הערים, להיות תמיד ליד מרחב מוגן. ואנחנו נקל ככל שהדבר ניתן. ותודה לך על הקפה, הוא מצוין. תודה. מה שאלת אותי?
Interesting.
So do
That
you
is a
see
pretty full
the
cup when he grabbed it.
well the one thing it was hard to see and you'd have to probably slow it down, but when he drinks from it, it goes over the top of his mouth and there's a quick edit there because like eventually his mouth's clean. It doesn't look like he has anything on it. But he took
Huh.
like a full sip and then but there was no liquid missing from that cup. That cup was like like coffee drinkers. If when you get a cup of coffee, like a fresh cup like that, for one, it's hot. And for two, you're not swinging it all around like that. Like that cup, like, cause he was even kind of tilting it up, like
Mhm.
gesturing to people. but the whole time that cup is like completely 100% topped off to the max, right?
Wow,
Because if you spill
interesting.
coffee out of a coffee cup while you're holding it,
Well,
typically it's
there
going to come down on your hand and it's going to burn your hand. So typically you're a little more careful with the way
there
you
was
gesture.
foam on top, and so it could be a lot of foam, maybe.
I mean, it could be. I'm just saying
Could
it.
be.
It does look weird. It does
It
look
is. It
weird.
is sus.
Yeah, it's us. I
And
mean,
Sean. Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
no, go ahead.
I was gonna change subjects, but yeah, you were saying.
No, I was just saying. I mean, I don't know what to believe, but I mean, I was kind of more running around the scenarios in my head of like, so what if he was dead? Like, what would that mean?
I think he's gonna end up dead. Honestly, to be completely honest, I think that's the direction we're going.
And did you see? So
Mhm.
America, after they invaded Iraq, and they set up like the world's biggest embassy, and then so Iran just bombed it,
Bombed it.
and now we've decided to evacuate it.
Of course, wonderful,
Crazy, man.
dude. That is
Crazy.
crazy. And we're gonna pray for Sean right now. Thanks for the donation, by the way, bro. And I'll just pray for you right now, dude. Lord God, I just ask that whatever's going on in Sean's heart right now, Lord, I just ask for peace moves through him, Lord, to know that you are in control. And I ask for healing. I ask that you send your healing angels to restore whatever broken thing is in his heart, Lord. And the nerves, I speak to the nerves right now in the name of Jesus. And the nerves align right now in the name of Jesus. I speak commanding healing over over the tissue. I reject any AFib right now in the name of Jesus. I reject any conditions being spoken over him, Father, and I command healing and wholeness into his heart right now in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. So Sean's dealing with some AFib.
I don't know. I just felt to pray against that. I don't know if
Okay.
that's what it was. But yeah. Anyways, guys, so yeah, we're gonna talk about some cool stuff today that's going to be very interesting, and I'm going to share with you a revelation the Lord kind of showed me about the Muslims. And like I said, the Muslims are it's a sex cult. It's literally a sex cult. Okay, so the Muslims, like, I love Muslim people, though, mind you. Let's just make this clear. Muslim people are better Christians than a lot of Christians. Okay, and I don't know if anybody doesn't know any
I don't know.
Muslims.
They might be more moral than they are, but I wouldn't say that they're better Christians
Well,
because I
bro, dude,
believe in
here's
the
what I'll say.
foundation of Christianity.
Well, think of it this way. The more moral, yeah, more moral is what I'll say then. They're better, more, and this is how we should behave. And like they're ethically a lot of times, and for those that don't know any Muslims and you want to comment, they're terrible. Shut up. You don't know any Muslims. Okay. But this is what I'm gonna tell you right now. They're oftentimes ethically more kind-hearted, and they care about people often more than the Christians care about people. And it's really upsetting to me, actually, to be completely honest, because they do love people, and they love people, like, and like, dude, in their country they don't have they have like their laws that if somebody's homeless they have to take care of them. So like they don't even have like homeless people, and or they try not to in certain areas until they're being bombed by Israel. But they typically don't have homeless people in the areas where they're at, because unlike the Christian nation where you go anywhere in America and you see homeless people everywhere you walk. And so that's kind of something that's not very prominent in Muslim ran countries. They have a little bit more concerns. Like obviously we can talk about the face thing and all that, whatever the hijab that they do, and I'll explain why that's a thing, even because it used to not be a thing. That was put in place that made that crazier. But the bigger problem, and again, like I said, not to like praise Muslims a whole lot, but they do tend to have higher um, concern for their brothers. And there's tons of stories about the reason why Israel was even able to take over that whole region was because the Muslims let them into their house. Just so you guys know, like, because no other country would be let them in. But the Muslims have this thing where it's like if they're in need or if they need help, they're supposed to let them in. Okay. And so like they have to let them in, which is kind of comical and not comical, but like terrible, because that's literally what led to the problems that they're having over there. It's like their own belief in inviting people into their house is what's led to this craziness. Now, I know I just said a bunch of stuff. Everybody's probably like, feeling all these different emotions in all these different ways. But just listen. So that being said, now I'm going to tell you some of the crazy stuff. And we got to understand the crazy stuff. You have to go very back to the beginning, because Muslims were not always called Muslims. They used to be called citizens. Did you know this, JT, before I told you? Or
No, when you told me, that was the first time I heard that.
yeah, so Muslims used to be called citizens, and they were a group of people that were around, what was it? When did the Muslims start? Was it 600? I'm trying to think.
Supposedly, yeah, 600 AD ish.
Yeah, 600 AD. It was like kind of in that region when Muhammad came up, and they were called citizens against their will. They were not named. They didn't say, "Oh, I'm a citizen." Okay? Because they were called citizens, because they were called that, because they were labeled that, because they were Sarah's sins. And who's Sarah, JT?
Well, Sarah was Abraham's wife, the mother of Isaac.
Isaac. Yep. And what did Sarah do that was sinful?
She basically doubted God because she didn't believe that she was going to be able to have a baby because she was in her 90s. So she decided to tell Abraham to go into her servant Hagar and produce a baby. And so,
Interesting.
yeah, so the offspring was Ishmael.
Which is where where they tell you that the Muslims came from. That's not actually accurate, but we'll just go with that narrative.
Yeah,
But
well, many people believe that. I mean,
yeah,
truth be told, again, this is still the same family. That's
yeah,
what people really get twisted about the whole story, is that so Arabs
they're
would
still
be,
Shemitic.
yeah, they would still be Semites because they
Yeah.
would be related to Abraham.
Yep, and they're under the line of Shem.
And pretty much
So
everybody,
it's
almost everybody in the Bible, I mean, most of the people that they're discussed are Semites.
mhm.
The great majority of them are.
Yeah,
So then by the time you get to, if you believe we're in the year 2026, most of those people, like everybody's probably got a little bit of a Shemite in
something.
them at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly. Yeah. We're all Shemitic technically at this point,
Well, I
for
mean,
sure. Some
I mean,
point. We're a
regardless, even
mix.
if we're not, we're all related to Adam, we're all related to Noah,
Yeah.
and it depends which one of his sons we're
Mhm.
related to. But yeah,
Yeah.
at this point, the biblical story goes that there's tons of mixing in,
Yeah.
even with the family of Israel.
Yep.
What is it? Moses marries
Mhm.
a Midianite woman. Um, Joseph marries an Egyptian woman. Ruth, who is the great grandmother of David, is a
Mhm.
Moabite, and
Mhm.
so she comes out of like Lot's side, but
Yeah.
still
Still
Semites.
still Semites. And secondarily, just for those that don't know, I've made this video several times, but for those watching this because you're wanting to learn, Semitic person means Shemitic. It means from the line of Shem. Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Okay. Shem had the son Eber, which is the Hebrews, who had the son Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So anybody from the line of Shem is a Shemitic lineage. It's anti-Shemitic to speak against them. So technically, if you speak against a Muslim, you're anti-Shemitic. Just a side note. Just
Yeah, they
that's
very likely have very strong ties to Shem,
yeah.
regardless if you said. But I want to go back to one thing you said. The history
Mhm,
says that Muhammad the prophet was around 600
mhm,
AD. Honestly, I don't think that makes any sense. I mean, I think that the Gunnar Heinsohn research makes more sense, that Islam popped up like right away, like
I
right around the
kind of
same
agree.
time Ri- Christianity did, and probably right around the time the temple was destroyed. Because if you think about it, it would make sense that when the temple system is destroyed, then there's this need for, well, how do we practice this ancient religion?
Mm,
So maybe that's where you get an offshoot. And what it says in Galatians is this, it says that the Jerusalem on earth is in bondage, but the Jerusalem above is free. And he was comparing
mhm.
it to Sarah and Hagar. So
Yep,
I think
yep,
that's really
yep.
interesting. So basically, he's comparing, like, we'll put it this way: if you believe that Ishmael's line is where the Islam comes from, well, Paul is the one who's directly making a comparison, saying that these Jews who are a slave to the law still are basically of Hagar's line.
Hmm.
Spiritually, not necessarily physically, but spiritually they are. But a lot of them, even what is it, in, I guess, the story of Herod the Great, he was like an Edomite. So a lot of these people were
Hmm.
not even necessarily tied directly to the people of Israel's line either.
Hmm.
So again, Esau is Semitic too, though. So
Yep. He's still Semitic,
I mean, he's Jacob's
regardless.
twin brother.
Yeah. So now there I'm gonna also mention there's a verse in Ezekiel where it says, "Turn your face towards the siege of Jerusalem." You know what I'm talking about? Ezekiel 4:7. When Israel gets destroyed, and it's talking about it, turn your face towards the siege of Jerusalem. Ezekiel 4:7. It says, "After you have finished this, lie down again and turn on your side and bear your sins of the people of Judah. I have assigned you 40 days, a day for each year." Okay. This is pertaining to where the Muslims get their practice of turning their face towards Mecca and that whole situation. This is
Isn't
actually
wait so
like
and Mecca is the east, right?
I think so, yeah, something like that.
Well, I think it's really interesting. Also in Ezekiel, when it's talking about Ezekiel's seeing a vision, and he's seeing a vision of what's happening in the temple, and you have all these people bowing down to the east in the temple,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
interesting.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah,
like,
and Ezekiel
I mean, it's
21 too.
correlates with, because like where Mecca would be I think, would it be northeast of Jerusalem,
Yeah,
somewhere in that area?
mhm, I
Either
think
way, it's
so.
like you're bowing down to the east, and that's obviously all these sun worshippers always have done that.
Yeah. There's definitely something in Ezekiel. There's multiple turn your face against, bow down. So when you read that turn your face against thing in the Ezekiel text, guys, like go through Ezekiel and you're gonna start to decode Ezekiel and you will find that the Muslim religion is decoded within Ezekiel. I haven't done it enough yet. I've been going through it and there's like so much to it that it's like the Lord just hasn't he started giving me pieces of it. So I'll probably bust through there eventually and then kind of like break it down where all the traditions and the practices came from. But it's a lot of it's in Ezekiel and it's very fascinating. So if you right now want to learn about this, go through Ezekiel and you'll just start being like, oh, that's where that tradition came from. Oh, that's where that tradition came from. Oh, that's where this comes from. And so it's
Wait,
very fascinating.
one quick thing, and I'll let you cook, and I'll let you go into what you're
Yeah.
saying. But to finish that point about that, it really doesn't make sense to me. At least it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't mean it's not true. That if Islam came about around 600 years after Christianity did, I think it's just a weird. I think it's a weird timing. Of course, when we talk about the year 536, this is like
Mm.
shortly after
Yeah, right
that.
to the darkness.
Yeah, this is right around the times of whatever. Yeah, when all this devastation comes. Again, devastation could be the same time as when Jerusalem is destroyed,
Fell.
and
Yeah.
then
That's where they added
Pompeii
it.
and all the cataclysms is happening. Because if you just think about the
Mhm.
way history is taught, you have the Jews, diaspora, they're separated around after the destruction of Jerusalem, and then you have Christianity rises in Rome, and then
Mhm.
in the 4 and 500s, eventually paganism becomes outlawed completely.
Mm.
I don't know. It just seems like an
Mhm.
odd time for Islam to pop up, and like the Romans would have said, "No, we're not
Hey,
doing
no.
we're
Yeah.
not doing that." You know
Mm.
what I mean? You'd have thought that thing would have got stamped out quick, and also would not have been widely adapted. Because I'm talking about, that's such a late thing when you think about, like, historically. You're talking about 500 or 600 years after Christianity and Judaism being kind of just changed, and then
Mhm.
this pops up, and then it's widely adapted. It makes more sense that if it was done during the confusing time where Jerusalem was being destroyed, that would maybe make more sense to me.
Yeah. Well, it's actually interesting. Muslim guys, the Muslim faith is actually tied to the destruction of Jerusalem that's happening right now. And I'm gonna loop it back around, guys, and I'm gonna share this revelation. And I don't know how true this is. The Lord just shared this kind of understandings popped into my head. I don't know if I'm even right or what this is. Honestly, I'm just gonna share it with you guys because it's pretty profound, and we'll talk about that at the end. But let's get back to where we're headed. So we don't know the history of anything really, right? But and like JT was saying, it's pretty fuzzy in a lot of these considering when you consider all the stuff about it. But What we do know is the language and where it started, and I want to get back to that. So they were started being called citizens, and Sarah's sin was that she told Abraham, you can have 2 wives. That's the sin of Sarah. That's what she said. You can have another wife, have another child with this. What did the Muslims, what are they most known for? The treatment of women. That is like having multiple wives and treating women as property, right? That's like the most, even if the women appreciate, I know there's women that love it and they're like, oh, we're valued and we're held up in high standard. That's great. That's fine. But you're still treated, and I'm going to get into this because it tethers into my past as being polyamorous or polygamous. Technically, I guess I was, because I have multiple girlfriends, and I'm gonna play this into your understanding of all this because it all ties together when you understand it. But the like that was his sin. The sin was Sarah said, you can have another wife. Okay. And then they went from being called, because it's a sex cult. It's literally when you think you die and go to heaven with a bunch of virgins and all you have is sex. That's a sex cult. And I talked to my Muslim friends and I was like, well, what about sexual dreams when you like, because for those, if you deny yourself lust and sex and stuff or masturbation or something as a single person, if you desire, if you stop it, you'll start having sexual dreams. It's pretty common actually. For those that know, have tried it, it's very common when it does that. And those are a lot of times it's demonic attacks, in my opinion, dealing with this kind of stuff. It's demons just messing with you or the Lord testing you in
Hey,
some
one quick thing,
capacity.
Brian. Somebody made a good
Yep.
point. No consent. Basically, what I was saying is that yes, the multiple wives, the polygamy is something that basically Jesus talked against when he was saying God created man and woman, and he's
Mhm.
talking about how marriage was supposed to be. But yeah, I think her ultimate sin was that she didn't believe God would bless her with a child, and that's
Sure,
why
sure,
she
yeah.
did. So this led to this other sin, and so like
Yeah.
but that was I mean, obviously there's been
Mhm.
men who obviously have taken multiple wives in the Bible, and God still considered them righteous because they believed in God's promise. But she denied it. Remember, she even laughed when God said that He was going to bless them with with a child.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that's the ultimate thing. It's the lack of faith,
We're
and I think that
we're
that
gonna
does
get to
always go
that
back
too.
to like why, like the real question of like, so why did God tell Abraham to take Isaac up to the high mountain and sacrifice him? I think that was
Yeah.
part of the fact that because because Abraham went along with that plan, it's like they were trying to do things in their
Mhm.
own flesh. So this
Mhm.
is apart from God's promise. And then so this eventually leads to this offspring that's going to be wild and going to be hard to control.
Mm.
So in a lot of ways, it does kind of correlate with the idea of modern conflicts. I know it's probably not exactly that, but yeah, I think that ultimately, yeah, no consent. I agree that the main sin was just not believing God.
Yeah, true. And I'm gonna get into why, because there's that pastor that keeps talking about polygamy being acceptable by the Lord. And dude, I came from that lifestyle, and I'm gonna share with you the revelation God shared with me about that. And I'm just gonna and like send this video to him because he needs to see it. But we're gonna talk about that here in a second because it is like there's a thing like in the Bible talking about, oh, it's okay to have multiple wives and blah blah. And I'm gonna explain what that is. We'll get there. But the sin that Sarah sin, that's why the Muslims were called sin was because they believed in multiple wives. That's why the Muslims were called this, not necessarily because they're not listening to God. I think it was tethered to the fact that they believed in multiple wives. And
Still
it's
also though, but it's still also like a works based
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
thing. So it's like again,
Yeah.
so again, it
Mhm.
still correlates because it's the flesh versus walking in faith and believing in the spirit of
Yeah.
God's promises. It's like me trying to do it, me trying to work my way into heaven, which
Yep.
is not how the new covenant works.
Exactly. And now further, the Muslim faith changes its name, but it changes its name to Aslamah or Aslamek, and then it becomes Islamek, right? But it was Aslamek originally. And
Kind of
so,
like
or
Aslan.
it sounds like yeah, it does, doesn't it? And but Aslamek, and you got to think like, what does that mean? It means as Lamech. Lamech in the Bible is the first man in the Bible to have 2 wives. Isn't that fascinating? It went from Saracens, who tells Abraham to have 2 wives, to Aslamech. That's literally what the name of that religion changed to, which is the guy who also happened to be the first man in the Bible to have 2 wives. Not only is Lamech not a very ideal character in the Bible, there's 2 Lamechs, okay? There's actually a dual, there's 2 Lamechs and there's 2 Enochs, the son of Enoch, son of Lamech, whatever, they're right next to each other. And then there's and then Lamech's children, as Lamech's children, actually is Tubal-Cain, who makes some agreement because he starts making metal. So we know he was making some agreement with the fallen angels because he was like a metal worker and did all this stuff. So he basically probably was selling his children to these angels in exchange for knowledge and power, whatever, which brought about the destruction of the world. Okay. As Lamech's children. And Lamech wasn't a good guy either. He bragged about killing a man. Okay. The bad Lamech did. The good Lamech was good. Okay. The good Lamech ended up having Noah, whose son ended up having to save the world from the bad Lamech's child, Tubal-Cain, which brought about the destruction of the world through sexual immorality with angels and fallen angels and whatever kind of creatures and animals they mixed. So that is why the Islamic religion is called Islamech. It's literally saying it is Lamech who brought about the destruction of the world that Noah in the flood had to save. Okay, so we went from calling them Saracens to Lamech. Isn't that fascinating? Islamech. And so when you understand the etymological connection, it's like it's right there in front of your face. Like, but people don't see it because it's like, bro, it's Islamech. It's so clear. And so Lamech had 2 wives, by the way, and he's the first man to have 2 wives in the Bible is Lamech. Lamech had 2 wives, and Lamech's 2 wives were called Ada and Zillah, like Godzilla, Ada and Zillah, but which brought about a lot of destruction. I'm sure Godzilla brings about a lot of destruction. Anyways, so Ada in Zillah, it means beauty in shadow. That's their names. What does Islamech do to their women? Makes them cover their faces. Beauty in shadow. Isn't that fascinating? So isn't that, I mean, it's like so prophetic, really. Islamech, beauty in shadow, his 2 wives, that they all the women are being told you have to cover your face. It's so prophetic that it's like, it's crazy. I don't know. It's crazy to me. So when you see that though, it's like telling you right there that there is a connection of some kind of thing that you should be paying attention to. Did you want to say something, JT?
No, I was looking
Ideas,
something up.
research?
I was looking up something. You can continue on theme. Maybe I'll bring this
Okay.
up later.
Okay, bring it up. So, anyways, what this is where it comes from. So that everybody knows, because I know y'all got quiet in the chat. I don't know what you guys are like being stunned or like trying to figure out what I'm saying, but that's what it was originally called. Citizens, Aslamech, Islamech. There's also a demon called Lamashtu, which kind of makes me think and wonder if it's connected to Lamashtu in some other way. But like the etymological connections. But either way, that's how it became what it is today. Now, it is because it is a sexual, perverse, religious perspective. They were named that. And then later they became Muslim. And now Muslim is, I don't know, I haven't looked up enough to know where the Muslim etymological roots are yet. I haven't gone deep enough into it. But I mean, Muslim is a fabric. I don't know if that was like a connection to fabric in some kind. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure they named themselves Muslim because they didn't want to be named Aslamech or Saracens. And so they decided, oh no, we're gonna be Muslim. So that's where the names come from, guys. And my Muslim neighbors outside listening to us. Funny. So yeah, when you understand this, it's like, yeah, like it's so true. Like you start to see the pieces of the religion kind of fall apart. And now let's talk about why the Muslim religion, why polyamory and polygamy is wrong. Because I see these stupid Christians coming up. Sorry, I shouldn't have called them that, maybe. But anyways, coming up telling everybody You can continue in your polyamorous ways, and it's okay. It's okay. It's wonderful to talk about. It's wonderful to be polyamorous. You know what? I'm going to tell you, biblically, you can have you can be polyamorous or polygamist. I mean, not polyamorous. You can be a polygamist, have multiple wives, but there is a caveat to all these pastors that are teaching this sort of doctrine. And I'm going to tell you right now, the one caveat says if you are a man of the church or a leader of people, you are not to be a man of more than one wife. And that is the caveat. Now, there's some dude online that goes, oh, but it says you must be a man of a first wife.
First
No, it
wife.
doesn't. It says man. And he's like, you have to keep the first wife that you married. That's what it means. It's okay if you have multiple wives, but you have to be a first wife. That's what this fool's saying. And I'm like, dude, you're completely missing it. You can look at the etymological terminology. It says a man of one unique only wife. That's the translation in Greek. A man of one unique wife. And I will tell you why. Because as a man and it's a leader in the church, you could easily be like, you will be my wife, and you will be my wife, and you will be my wife, and you will be my wife. That's why it says that. To stop you from being a manipulative, wicked dude that takes advantage of all the women that you want. That's why that law is there. That's why it says to the leader of the church, you are to be a man of one wife, to literally stop you from being polygamist and trying to marry multiple women. So you can marry multiple women if you would like, but you better not be a person in the church because then you're a manipulator. And in fact, there's a Bible verse about those people specifically. I'm going to read it. It says, literally, it says, taking advantage of gullible women. Gullible women. This is the Bible verse. Okay. Says there. Okay. Let's just read this. I just gotta read it. 2 Timothy 3:5. Nope. Wait. Let's go back. 2 Timothy 3:4. Treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure. Now we'll just go to the beginning. Let's just go. 2 Timothy 3:1. Here we go. But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. It says people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. It says having a form of godliness but denying its power, have nothing to do with such people. Okay, this is the verse. They are the kind whom worm their way into the homes and gain control over gullible women who are loaded down with sins and are swallowed by all kinds of evil desires. Dang. When you hear that, 2 Timothy 3:6, ouch. They are the kind of whom work their way, I like how it says worm in some translation, who work their way into people's homes and win the confidence of vulnerable women who are burdened down with guilt of sin and controlled by various desires. Okay. Having they are the kind who worm their way into the households and captivate vulnerable women who are weighted down by sins and led astray by various passions. So, being a leader of a church, you could easily be like, you will be my wife, and you will be my wife, and you will be my wife. And guess what? If you didn't have police around and you lived in the middle of the forest, you're going to respond to your husband. I'm telling you this because this is actually natural. And this is actually what the Muslims think. Okay. And I'm explaining this idea to you so that you understand the Muslim mindset for how they treat women. And this is why they justify it. By the way, side note, I think that's why we're going this direction anyways. Like, so that way you understand what the Muslim man and it's so misogynistic worldview is. Okay. That's how they teach. And this is their practice. And in some respects, like if you understand it, you're like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I see what they're saying or what that's going or what that means. Well, I'm saying if they obey, if they're kind and loving, they will influence the man. But if
Well,
you
sure, but
challenge the man, he's going
obviously,
to
we can only
respond
really go by
negatively.
what the Bible says. Is that it says that the woman's the weaker vessel. The man is supposed to love the woman like Jesus loves us. So
Yes.
the Jesus being the head of us, we submit to
Mhm.
him. The woman submits to the man, but
Mhm.
the man is submitting to Christ, and so we're
Yes.
supposed to love our wives as Christ loved the church, who he died for.
Yeah.
So there's obviously that symmetry in there. that works together. And
It
now,
is,
but you get
and it's
outside of it. I
totally the
mean, but
man's
again,
problem.
but it also makes sense that if you have people who are like living by the flesh, it's like, yeah, they are treating the woman like their property, and that's obviously
Mm.
that's not loving to treat people like that.
No, it's
And then
not
that
loving.
beget, and so then it's about that obviously the man is supposed to lead the household, but it's not like the woman is not like a servant to the man. He's they're they're partners in this.
Yes.
Somebody's got to make the decisions at the end of the day, and that's the order that God established. But I mean, that even goes back to the idea of Sarah. It's like, and even the garden. It's like the man let the woman make the decision, and we don't really even know what they thought about it. Like, of course, the Bible really doesn't say what Adam thought about what Eve was doing, but he obviously allowed it to happen, and
Yeah.
then that worked out pretty crappy for all of us. In the same way, like, why, if Abraham believed God, why did he let Sarah say, "Hey, how about my servant instead?"
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
again, that's why I
Here,
think that they went up to Mount Sinai. They went up to Mount Sinai, not Mount Sinai, but they went up to Mount Moriah for that sacrifice of Isaac, because
yeah.
ultimately it was Abraham was responsible for what Sarah did because he allowed her to make that decision for him.
Let me clarify something too. So, men in prison today, it's something like 80% are come from mom-only households, and it's something like 3% come from dad-only households in prison today. And, people let that sink and let that sit in. Like, men in prison today, the rest of them are from parent double parent households where the parents both were involved. But 80 something percent of them come from mom only households. Only 3% come from father only households. So that you really got to contemplate why that is. Because we have police have interrupted this whole dichotomy of men being the protector and they're not valued for being the protectors that they are. And so as a result, men that are weaker, and also a lot of men that are weak are just like they're going to have some problems because they might be violent just by default because they're weaker and they think you're challenging them in some capacity. But again, weaker men they tend to be more violent, I guess you could say. But this is also a subcategory. And obviously there's a lot of like technical nuances to this. The reason why I was even bringing this up is literally because what I'm saying there is tethered to the mindset of how the Muslim think about men and women, how your role is supposed to be. That's why they think that way, and that's why they treat that whole system that way. Okay, so now everybody wants to crucify me in the comments, I'm sure.
Well, I can shift
I may not
gears.
have
I
explained
guess
that well
back on
enough.
track. I found a verse that I think is really good
Mhm.
about the idea that God he didn't want anybody to take multiple wives,
Yeah.
even though they did. And we often talk about that.
Mhm.
I'll quote Vitali. I know he's probably not the first person to say this, but he's the one I got it from. Is that a lot of things in the Bible are descriptive, not prescriptive.
Mm.
So just because some man in the Bible did something does not mean it was something that was sanctioned by God. God gives us free will, and he can even use our bad decisions for his ultimate plan because he's sovereign and he's good. But so in the book of Deuteronomy, obviously, this is at the end of Moses' life. They're about to enter the land of Canaan, and he's giving them basically his last words, his final instructions and prophecies over them. And if you read Deuteronomy chapter 17, 16, and 17, it says, and he's talking about the idea that one day they're going to ask for a king. And it says, but he shall not multiply his horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt. To the end, he should multiply horses. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. So it doesn't really specifically say, but I mean, of course, famously, the story of Solomon, well, not just Solomon, obviously, David took multiple wives. And of course, that didn't work out too great either because you have like the Uriah the Hittite situation with Bathsheba. But that's what you see is what happened with Solomon was that he took multiple wives. One of the things that God told them not to do was to take wives of these people in this pagan land.
Mm.
Solomon completely ignores that, despite being the wisest man ever. He has 300 wives and 700 concubines. So like 1,000 women total. And yeah, famously, like the story of like what people believe, like from extra biblical texts, like these different queens of his moved Solomon to go build high places to their gods.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's saying don't multiply your wives if you have a king.
Hmm.
So if we are in the new covenant kings and priests of God, he doesn't want us to multiply our wives either.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm reading your guys' comments too. Like everybody's like, Brian, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. Okay. So, feel free to tell me I'm wrong. I'll read it out loud and you can explain why I'm wrong. So I'm just trying to give you guys a perspective of what I've seen in the world today. And this is why, by the way, people like Andrew Tate become so popular, and these kind of people is because they have the same mindset. And that's why he became a Muslim. They had that same sort of thinking, like, dude, who are you to challenge as a girl a man when the man's the one providing for protecting? Because it's not like if you go homeless, if you're in a relationship with a man, if you go homeless, it's not the woman's fault. It's the man's fault always. Like it's always his fault. Like if JT, if you became homeless, it would be your fault no matter what. Even if your woman has a job, it's going to be your fault. And because the man is required with the responsibility of the
Well,
leadership.
ultimately, somebody's accountable.
Yeah.
And
But
I
it's
think
always going to be the
I think
man.
where we're kind of getting at too is that, like I said, it's obviously everything that the Bible's teaching is about love.
Yeah.
And so what God really hates is when you take advantage of your high position to mistreat others. So that would obviously go doubly in a marriage where just because God said the woman needs to submit to the man, and then this man without love takes advantage of that position over the woman to dominate her and mistreat her, that's something that God hates,
Yeah.
right? Because
Absolutely.
you're supposed to be able to, like, the less
Well, that's
fortunate,
where the
the
line.
powerless is the ones that as Christians we're supposed to treat better than
Well,
that.
that's where the line gets crossed, is where the man stops loving the women and they get to the point where they're like, I'm going to have multiple women. And it's like the mindset literally goes from you're supposed to respect me to, okay, now I'm going to take advantage of you. And that's what the Muslim religion does. It literally has this mindset, has this perspective, and then they go, and you're going to do this. You're going to act this way. And I'm going to have multiple wives and you're not going to do anything about it. That's what the mindset of the Muslim is. It's like, what are you going to do because you're subservient? And so the man is evil because he's taking advantage of the woman who is supposed to be operating in like peace and love and unity. And he's instead just abusing her by taking advantage of her kindness and her love. So that's literally what the Muslim sort of thing is. And that's the same thing with people. Anybody in polyamory is doing the same thing, by the way, today. Any man in polyamorous relationship is literally doing the same thing. You're just taking advantage of the women because your heart is evil. And you're literally like, oh, well, it's not good enough for this. It's not good enough for that. That's why it says if you're a man of a church, you can't be a man. You have to be a man of only one wife because you're not supposed to be a teacher if you've got wicked heart and you're not teaching love and unity and peace. And so like there is obviously, if it feels like I was attacking women, sorry, but I'm like, I mean to like explain the dynamic. It's men's fault as well, obviously, duh. But what I'm trying to explain is like that's where this sort of polyamorous mindset comes in because they're like, I'm in control. You're just an object. That's what they think. They don't think of the woman as like somebody that adds to their life. They don't think of the woman as somebody that provides. They think of the woman as you're just a thing on a shelf. And it's like, that's the whole dynamic. And to some degree, there's aspects of what they believe that is more rooted in like the concept of like how the world would be if there was no police. I don't even know if the Muslims have like a big police department, I think, in like the Arab country, if their police department is even like majorly like a problem.
I don't even know.
They
I don't
don't,
even
and
know.
I'm
I
pretty
mean,
sure
it's
they
obviously
don't,
all
but
based on their own religious laws, but I mean, the truth be told, that's where laws really come from. They usually come from some kind of moral standard that does come from some deity. Even
yeah.
secular nations, they got their roots from their laws from that.
Yeah. That's it. Somebody's sorry if I pissed you guys all off. Write me an email and tell me why I'm wrong, please. Like I'm just explaining, guys. I'm just explaining stuff. It doesn't mean I 100% agree with this. I'm just trying to teach the understanding of the mindset so that way people will be like, "Oh, that's where this comes from." Because once you understand it, you realize like people that are evil, like the Muslim mindset is literally taking advantage of helpless or weaker vessels, and it's like it's very evil. But yeah, there's men are supposed to love women. It says, I run the house, but it only runs. Anyways, that's I don't know. That's all I had in my thoughts.
That was
uh,
your Muslim talk right there.
that was kind of my
Okay.
Muslim talk. I wanted to talk about the Muslims.
You know, it's funny. I want to bring this up because I looked this up before, and this sort of relates. Obviously, well, it relates to the Muslim topic, at least. So I've been told. I've never actually read. I think I read The Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe way back in the day by C.S. Lewis. But obviously, he has that whole Chronicles of Narnia. And have you ever heard like the synopsis for like the very last book he did in that series, Brian?
Which one?
It's called The Last Battle.
Oh, I've heard it, but what about it?
Yeah, let me share this. So here's like a quick summary of it. Okay, so what it says in here, it says in the book, a deceitful ape named Shift convinces a simple donkey named Puzzle to wear a lion skin and pretend to be Aslan. Shift claims Aslan has new commands for Narnia. Foreign invaders called the Calaraminas, how do you say that?
I don't know.
Arrive and support the deception, and then they introduce a false god named Tosh. Eventually, the two are combined to a fake deity called Tajlan. And it's just really interesting because it's basically like that they're told that this god is the same god as the one they worship. I thought it's kind of cool because it references an ape, though, Brian, as we talk about
Really?
that.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. And a
but I mean, what
donkey.
a lot of people believe about what happens in here is that what is happening in this book, it's kind of like the same thing where we have these Abrahamic faiths, right? And so they have the Abrahamic faith house in Abu Dhabi, and they're like, oh, well, we all worship the same God.
Mm,
This is more like the situation here where it's like they take your God and then they take the false God and they merge the two together, and now it's Tajlan. I think it's the exact
interesting.
same thing as like what happens with, I don't know, maybe like Allah,
Mm,
where we're like, well, this is Abraham's God. But is it?
mm,
No, I don't think it is, because it's like if you deny the
mhm.
Son, you deny the Father who sent him. So you can't really say that we worship the same God as them. I don't know. Of course, it's in the book. I think he's obviously C.S. Lewis was writing that into the story was you have these foreigners who are coming in and say, "Oh no, we actually worship the same God as you." Turns out at the end that that God Tajlan is an abomination. It's like a demon that they're worshiping
Hmm.
that's
So he
trying to
deceives
pretend to
them?
be Aslan.
Interesting. Tajlan Aslan. Well, I mean, I think Azazel is it's a demon of the book of Enoch that's the fallen angel is like a leader, and Azrael is the angel of death. And so when I hear Aslan, I think literally it's like, how is that any different? I
I mean,
immediately
the
think
point
that.
is I mean, it's a name for a thing. I mean, I'm not saying it didn't come from someplace, but I'm saying that at least through the way the Chronicles of Narnia go, like Aslan is kind of presented as like the Lion of Judah. He's like the king of Narnia. He gives up his life for them. He's resurrected. So at least C.S. Lewis is pointing to this being a Christ figure. And then there's
Yeah.
somebody else who later comes around and tries to combine like a false deity with him. And so it's not necessarily about the name. It's
Hmm.
more like what's happening in the story. So I don't know
Interesting.
that. Yeah, I think that I don't know. It makes sense. It makes sense because I think a lot of people are naive to the fact that they think that like this Judeo Christian idea is legitimate biblical concept, but it's not, because you
Hmm.
can't be yoked to unbelievers. So if you don't believe in Christ, then you don't worship the same God as us. And
Interesting.
it's not mean to say that. It's just the truth.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny about Allah and everything is that we know that the occult is very heavily tethered to mysticism and all kinds of magic stuff tethered to the word Kabbalah. And the Muslims, they actually worship the Kaaba, which is that big black square that they all circle around.
Yeah, obviously
Okay.
Saturn vibes.
Yeah, it's the Kaaba that's the square that's on the Jew's forehead, right? And then it's called the Kabbalah, which is what the Jews worship, right? The Kabbalah, which is the occultic text. And here is the statue. This is the statue of Allah, but it's archaeologists find the statue of Allah that matches the description in the Quran of Hadith. It says Muslim God has two right hands. It says he has two right hands. Okay. Both hands are right hands. Okay. In the Quran in 5:4. It says the Hadith Muslim blah, blah, has one shin only. Okay. In Quran. He has 2 feet and has eye. So I think it says he has like a, what is this? Muslim God has 2 hands, both hands are right hands, has 1 shin only,
Is
has
that a
2
snake
feet,
wrapped around his
has
leg?
eye. Yeah, it looks like a snake wrapped around
He's got horns,
yeah.
pointy
So
ears.
they find this statue though, and it's got 2 right hands. So it's like a statue of Allah. But it's fascinating. I don't know, how valid all this stuff is, but there's some other text too as well. I guess they found some other thing about it. So this is
Yikes.
Allah, Kab Allah, which is the Kabbalah. So it's kind of related to mysticism and Judaism and all kinds of stuff. And you got to also think why would what's his name, Jeffrey Epstein, have a piece of the shroud of the Kabbalah, like that little thing that goes around the Kabbalah? He had a huge piece of it, and you're like, that's weird. That's strange that he has that. Um, pretty fascinating when you look into it, because you're like that. You know what I'm talking about? They cut that. There's like this drape that they have over the big black cube, and a piece of it they cut, and Jeffrey Epstein had. You're like, that's
Oh,
so
no, I
weird.
didn't see that. That's interesting.
Yeah, he had a big piece of the cube's curtain for some reason. He like paid a bunch of money for it. Anyways, that's the Muslim talk and the polyamory talk. Hopefully maybe I butchered that. Maybe we'll do a better one again. I'll map it out more clearly so that way people don't attack me and think I said something terrible. Anything else? You good, JT?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I hope you guys have a blessed first day of the week today, and hopefully
Yep.
we'll see you guys at the premiere of JT's mixtape, the newest one coming out tomorrow evening.
Tomorrow. Yep. All righty, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Talk to